They said I died in Kandahar, IED strike. No survivors. There was no funeral. Just a folded flag mailed to a house I hadn't lived in for years, and a 2-paragraph press release no one actually read. That was fine by me, because I wasn't dead. Not yet. I was off-grid, somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, working a job that didn't exist, for people who didn't sign their names. And when the explosion happened, the system needed someone to blame, or bury. So they picked me, typed my name into a database, flagged KIA, and shut the whole thing down. 2 weeks later, I woke up in a concrete room with no rank, no contact, no patch on my shoulder, and no answers. Just a voice behind a mirrored window saying, "It's cleaner this way." They kept me locked down for 8 months, said it was protocol, said the mission failed, said nothing I did would be declassified for at least 25 years, and when they finally let me walk, they gave me $3,000 in cash, no ID, and a burner phone with one contact labeled "Start Over." I didn't go home, didn't call anyone, didn't chase answers, because something inside me was still burning, not rage, not grief, just this low, simmering awareness that someone signed off on my death on purpose. And that meant someone somewhere had a reason to keep me quiet. So I stayed quiet until last month. I was eating at a gas station diner in New Mexico, halfway through a plate of eggs and regret. When the news came on, there he was, Congressman Owen Lachlan, announcing his run for Senate, patriotic music, gold tie, big smile. And behind him on the podium, a framed portrait of the fallen soldier who died in Kandahar, me. They used my name, my photo, my supposed sacrifice, as a prop. They built a political campaign on the grave they assigned me. I left the eggs, didn't pay the bill, didn't say a word, just walked out, got in my truck, and started driving. Back toward the past, toward the people who buried me, toward the memorial service being held in my honor next Sunday at Lachlan's hometown VFW. No invite, no RSVP. Didn't matter. Because this time, I wouldn't be a ghost. The VFW hall was exactly what I remembered. Low ceilings, flickering fluorescents, that smell of burnt coffee and floor wax. They'd dressed it up with flags and bunting. A slideshow played on loop. Photos from deployment, some real. Some pulled from a folder the Army probably thought was long erased. The screen read, "Honoring SSGT Nathaniel Rourke, born 1984, died 2015. A true American hero." I sat in the back row. No one looked twice. Beard, ball cap, jacket zipped to the throat. To them I was just another vet, another shadow in a chair that creaked. The first speaker was a chaplain, soft voice, kind eyes, read from a card like he barely knew me. The second was a local councilman, name I didn't catch, smiled like it was a campaign stop, talked about sacrifice, loyalty, patriotism. He'd never served, didn't matter. He used the word hero 6 times in 2 minutes. Then came Lachlan. He walked up like he owned the place, polished, confident, eyes scanning the crowd like he was already a senator. He paused in front of the photo of me, touched the edge of the frame, and said, "Some names live forever, and today we honor one of them." Staff Sergeant Nathaniel Rourke gave his life so others could return home. He was brave, devoted, and, most importantly, willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for a country that now honors his legacy. The room clapped, polite, predictable. I didn't move. He kept going. I was proud to sponsor legislation in Sergeant Rourke's name. Veterans deserve better, and I intend to deliver. Because of brave men like Nate, God rest his soul, we are reminded of what real service looks like. That's when I stood up. No words, no drama. Just one tired man in a worn field jacket, walking slowly down the aisle toward the podium. The chaplain noticed first. He blinked, tilted his head. Then one of the honor guards, his hand hovered near his sidearm, confused. But Lachlan didn't see me until I was 20 feet away. And then I watched the blood drain from his face like someone had yanked the rug out from under his reality. He took a half step back. "Sir, can I help you?" he asked. His voice cracked on the last word. I stopped 2 feet from the mic, looked at him, then up at the screen, where my name still hung in digital eulogy. Then I said, "Funny thing about being declared dead, you start to hear what people really think of you." Gasps. A woman in the second row dropped her purse. Someone near the back said, "Wait, is that—" I didn't turn around, didn't blink. Lachlan stammered, "This is impossible. We received confirmation. We dash." I cut him off. "Yeah, you did." Signed off by a name I've seen before, one I recognized, from a black site briefing in Al Udeid. Silence. That name hit him like a rifle crack. He knew I wasn't bluffing. I turned to the crowd. "You want to honor veterans? Start by not burying the ones who come home breathing. I didn't die in Kandahar, but my records did. My benefits, my pension, my entire identity wiped clean with a single signature Lachlan vouched for." The chaplain stepped forward. "Sir, this isn't the time or place." I raised a hand, calm, no shouting, just heat behind the eyes. "It is exactly the time, because this isn't just about me. It's about everyone the system forgets, erases, uses up, and then discards like yesterday's headline." I pulled a flash drive from my coat pocket, held it up between 2 fingers. "This has everything. Transfer logs, comm records, even the death certificate, with edits that don't match DOD timestamps." Lachlan tried to step in. "We should speak privately." I shook my head. "You held my funeral for headlines. Now hold your consequences in front of the same crowd." I placed the drive on the podium, nodded once, and walked out the front door, alive, legally dead, and about to make damn sure I took down every last person who signed that form. I made it 5 blocks before the news hit. Some kid with a gimbal caught the whole thing on his phone. Me walking into my own memorial, dropping a flash drive, and leaving like it was just another Sunday errand. By the time I pulled into a cheap motel off Route 12, it was already on 3 local news sites and climbing. Fallen soldier returns from the dead? Is senatorial candidate involved in veteran cover-up? I didn't read the comments, didn't need to. I knew exactly how it would go. Half the country would call it a hoax. The other half would make it a meme. And somewhere, buried in the noise, would be the names of the men who made me disappear. I still had that burner phone. 8 years old, cracked screen, 1 contact. "Start over." I hit it. Let it ring once. Hung up. 10 minutes later, I got a message. "Stay put. Incoming." 2 hours after that, a knock. He looked older, thinner, eyes like a dog who'd seen the fire and stayed in it too long. Reed Carlson, used to be my CO, now wore civilian clothes like a second skin that never quite fit. "Jesus, Nate," he said, stepping inside. "You couldn't have called first?" "I was dead, remember?" He didn't smile, didn't argue, just sat in the motel chair and stared at the floor. "Do you have any idea what you just stirred up?" I nodded. "I do. That's why I need your help." He rubbed his face, hands shaking just enough to give him away. "You know they're not going to let this ride." "Good, I'm not either." Carlson had been part of the same operation in Kandahar, but unlike me, he made it back with paperwork that didn't vanish. He also got promoted twice, quietly retired, and landed a consulting gig tied to, you guessed it, Lachlan's defense firm. "So you knew," I said. "Number I suspected. They told me your evac failed, that your body wasn't recovered." Then, 2 months later, Lachlan shows up at a closed-door session with a classified kill report and a blank file with your name on it. "And you said nothing?" He didn't answer. Didn't need to. He handed me a flash drive of his own, labeled Echo Kill Audit Red Line. "This isn't everything, but it's enough to start peeling layers. You're not the only one whose file vanished. There were others, not all military, a journalist, an Afghan intel asset, a whistleblower from within Lachlan's own pack. Where are they? Dead, or disappeared, or too scared to breathe loud. I leaned back against the wall, felt the old weight come crawling back into my chest. Not guilt, not yet. It was the old instinct, the one that keeps your hand near your sidearm and your eyes scanning doorframes for ghosts. Because I knew what came next. The media storm was the distraction. The kill team came after. 2 days after the memorial, someone torched my truck. Didn't bother checking if I was in it. Classic message. Loud, crude. Burn the past down before it starts talking. Carlson moved me to a safe house, an old farmhouse in the woods outside a dead town. No internet, no lights at night. Just us and the files. That's when we found it. A document buried in the metadata. Original file name, Tombstone Protocol. It was a kill list. Names, dates, justifications. Veteran declared deceased due to intel compromise risk. My name was third. They needed me out of the way, I said, scrolling, because I knew Echo wasn't just recon. It was cover for an asset extraction tied to corporate holdings. Carlson nodded. They were laundering logistics contracts through your unit. You got too close. I laughed once, bitter. All I did was ask who was paying for the fuel we never used. Outside, an engine purred. Carlson moved to the window, raised 2 fingers. Gray sedan, no plates. That's not press. We grabbed our gear and vanished through the crawl space. This wasn't about proving I was alive anymore. That part was done. Now it was about who else they tried to bury and how far they'd go to keep them from clawing out of the dirt. The farmhouse was cold, dusty. Wood stove didn't work. But it was safe, at least for now. Carlson set up 3 monitors, scavenged from some backwoods Radio Shack. I spread out the files. One by one, we started making the dead visible again. Name, Jordan Ellis. Journalist. Embedded. Disappeared 3 weeks after interviewing our unit in Kandahar. Official cause of death, traffic accident. No witnesses. No body. Just a mangled rental car. Name, Fareed Nouri. Interpreter. Loyal. Smart. His last known report included phrases like misappropriated funds, equipment diversion, and Senator Lachlan's Oversight Committee. 2 weeks later, drone strike misfire near his village. Wrong coordinates. Zero accountability. Name, me, Staff Sergeant Nathaniel Rourke. Declared KIA without autopsy. Body never recovered. File sealed. Death used as political leverage. They called it Tombstone Protocol, Carlson muttered. They made us graves so they could build careers. He looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. Neither had I. But we weren't the only ones who noticed. That morning, a message hit Carlson's encrypted channel. No sender, just coordinates, and a file name. EchoReal_0267. We drove 6 hours to a decommissioned logistics center, the kind they use for storage before a base closes or a scandal opens. Inside a rusted shipping container wrapped in black trash bags and duct tape was a hard drive. And on it, footage, not just ours, but Jordan Ellis's final recording, uncut, time-stamped, pulled from the original camera that never made it out of Kandahar. The audio was shaky, but clear enough. What you're doing isn't just off-book, Ellis said. It's illegal. You're smuggling millions in tech and tagged goods through active war zones using a recon unit as your smokescreen. Then, a voice off camera, you think anyone's going to believe a blogger over a U.S. senator? Rourke's already been marked. You're next. The next 10 seconds were a blur of shouting, metal, and a gunshot, then static. That's it, I whispered. That's the kill switch. That's the moment Lachlan crossed the line from bureaucrat to butcher. Carlson nodded slowly. Now we just need someone loud enough to make it stick. Enter. Mia Navarro, war reporter, retired after a mortar took part of her hearing. Now she ran a podcast called The Afterburn, a small channel with a rabid military following and a reputation for getting it right. I sent her the footage, didn't sign it, didn't ask for airtime, just wrote, "You knew Jordan, this is why he's dead." She aired it that night. 3 million views in 12 hours, 6 million the next day. Hashtags exploded. Echo kill. Tombstone truth. Rourke returns. Even mainstream media couldn't ignore it now. Every station had a theory, every politician had a statement. But Lachlan, he disappeared. No appearances, no press, no tweets. Just silence. The kind that smells like lawyers and cold sweats. That's when the third ghost showed up. It was just after midnight. Carlson and I were watching Navarro stream when the knock came. A woman. Early 40s, gray windbreaker, eyes that look through you, not at you. She didn't introduce herself, didn't need to. She tossed a photo on the table. 3 men, 2 of them were Carlson and me. The third was a man we buried. Mason Briggs, I whispered. Briggs had been our forward ops guy, communications and reconnaissance. We lost him in a hillside ambush, or so we were told. She nodded. He's alive, hiding in Patagonia. Went dark after being named on the same kill list you were. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm not with them anymore, and because if you're going to blow this open, you'll need every name, every voice, and every body they tried to vanish. She slid over a burner phone. He's expecting your call. Then she was gone. What the hell is happening? Carlson muttered. What's happening, I said, is they didn't bury us deep enough. The cracks were forming, the lies unraveling, and the ghosts they built for political gain? He was getting louder with friends. Briggs didn't answer on the first call, didn't answer on the second either, but on the third try, someone picked up. The voice was ragged, thin, like it hadn't been used in a long time. If this is a trace, you'll get nothing. If this is real, say the name. Ellis, I said, Jordan Ellis, and Fareed Nuri, and me. Silence. Then a sharp breath. Damn it, Rourke. They really didn't finish the job, did they? Briggs had been hiding in Patagonia under a fake name for nearly 6 years. He'd been the comms officer on Echo, saw the reroutes, the black drops, the metadata edits. And when he tried to blow the whistle, someone slipped a burn notice into the system, marked him as compromised, then left a note in his file, "Do not confirm death. Allow disappearance to stand." I was the control variable, he told me. They needed you dead, Ellis discredited, Nuri vaporized, and me lost. It's not just about stolen gear, Nate. It's about who they funneled it to. Terror cells? Worse, defense contractors with offshore ties. Some of that gear ended up in the hands of domestic groups, militia funding, election leverage. They used Echo to seed chaos, and they needed silence to bloom it. We looped in Navarro again. She was already 10 steps ahead. Congressional committees were forming, whistleblower hotlines lighting up. But Lachlan? Still nowhere. His campaign had vanished. Donors bailed. His PR firm scrubbed him from the internet so fast it looked like a magic trick. And yet, the machine behind him still spun. News anchors started calling me a fraud again. Anonymous sources said I had PTSD, said I was confused, said my memorial intrusion was staged. It was a smear campaign, clumsy but loud. That's when the VA made their move. A letter showed up at the motel. Carlson brought it in. "You're gonna love this," he muttered. I opened it. "To whom it may concern, due to inconsistencies in administrative records, your veteran status is currently under review. Until further notice, all benefits and services are suspended. Sincerely, the Office of Veteran Affairs." I laughed, out loud, for the first time in years. They killed me, ignored me, then resurrected me just to cancel me. Carlson didn't laugh. "This is how they break people, Nate. Paper cuts, bureaucracy, not bullets." Briggs had one last piece. He sent us a folder labeled Reliquary. It contained the missing contract. The one Laughlin's office signed authorizing unmonitored field drops, untraceable delivery assets, and foreign transfer exemptions tied to an unnamed logistics group. The signature at the bottom? Not a digital stamp, a wet signature. Laughlin's, with a date. 3 days after my alleged death. We took it to Navarro. She didn't flinch. I've got someone, a federal prosecutor, quiet, sharp, hates corruption more than traffic. We met him that night in an underground garage. You realize, he said, reviewing the file, that if we move forward with this, you're not testifying as a victim. You're testifying as a hostile asset against a U.S. government official. I'm not hostile, I said. I'm just done being buried. He nodded. You'll need to be seen. They'll try to call you a ghost again. You want the truth to matter, you'll have to show up. In court, on record, alive. And that's how I found myself prepping for a deposition in a courtroom named after a senator, while the same government that erased me tried to pretend I didn't exist. Again. Laughlin finally resurfaced. Sort of. A single recorded statement sent to the press. I served my country with honor. These recent attacks are politically motivated, driven by misinformation and personal vendettas. I will not be participating in this circus of lies. No apology, no denial. Just a lawyer's shield in a coward's voice. The next day, the subpoena hit his desk. And mine. The trial was set, 7 days out. Carlson called it Judgment Week. Briggs called it Round 2. I didn't call it anything, because I knew this wasn't about headlines anymore. It was about resurrection, of names, of honor, of every veteran they thought was too tired to fight back. The courtroom was colder than it needed to be, marble floors, polished wood, flags that had seen more oaths broken than honored. I sat at the witness table, Carlson to my left, Briggs 2 rows back, flanked by 2 federal agents, and across from us, Laughlin, hair perfect, suit tight, eyes flat, like none of this mattered. He didn't look at me, not once. The prosecutor stepped up. Please state your name for the record. Staff Sergeant Nathaniel Rourke, United States Army, retired against my will. A soft murmur rolled through the gallery. Sergeant Rourke, were you declared deceased by the Department of Defense in 2015? Yes. Were you dead? No, ma'am, but my life was. They walked through the whole thing, the fake death, the sealed files, the reappearance, the memorial, the footage, the kill list, the defense contracts. I spoke with a voice that didn't shake, didn't crack, not because I wasn't angry, but because I knew anger was what they expected, so I gave them clarity instead. Calm. Like a man who'd already been burned and just wanted to make sure no one else got set on fire. When they showed the signature, the original wet ink contract with Laughlin's name, the room shifted. You could feel it. Even the court reporter sat up straighter. Laughlin's lawyer objected. Said the evidence was circumstantial. Said I was mentally unstable. Said this was a politically motivated takedown by a rogue element of disaffected soldiers. So the prosecutor asked, Mr. Laughlin, would you be willing to submit to a sworn interview under oath, on camera, to clarify your involvement? He declined. Instead, his lawyer read a prepared statement. My client bears no ill will toward any service member. He regrets any confusion regarding documentation during wartime operations. Any signatures presented here today are either outdated, misrepresented, or taken out of context. Then he added, Sergeant Rourke should be grateful to have survived. He was never meant to be targeted. And that's when I spoke again. Not for the court, not for the cameras, for every ghost still walking. You didn't erase me because of a clerical error. You did it because I asked the wrong question. Because I followed the trail when no one else wanted to. Because I stood up once, and you decided that was once too often. You didn't just take my name, you took my VA benefits, my identity. You left my parents a folded flag and a lie. And now you want me to be grateful? I stood. I buried friends in soil that doesn't grow anything, and I've seen more honor in a combat zone than I've ever seen in this room. But I didn't come back for revenge. I came back so the next soldier you try to disappear has a damn trail to follow. The judge let it hang. Didn't scold me, didn't thank me, just nodded once. Statement will remain on record. The trial stretched on for weeks. Lachlan resigned, said it was to focus on family. He was indicted 6 months later. Wire fraud, obstruction, conspiracy to defraud the government. They gave him 7 years. Minimum security. He'll probably write a book. Carlson testified in 2 more hearings. Briggs went dark again. Smart. Navarro won a Pulitzer. Me? I got my name back. VA reinstated my file, sent a check. I never cashed it. Instead, I went back to the VFW hall, the same one they held my memorial in. They'd taken down my photo, replaced it with a plaque. For those we lost and found again, and right next to it, a folded flag in a shadow box, no name. Just a line that said, "Some ghosts come back to fight." I sat at the counter, ordered coffee. Black. The waitress didn't recognize me, didn't matter. She poured the cup, refilled it once, said nothing. But the guy next to me leaned in. "You that soldier they said was dead?" I looked at him. I was? What happened? I showed up. And that's the thing about being buried alive. Eventually you dig. And if you've got the truth in one hand and your name in the other, you come back swinging.